Hmm. So, hello out there. Welcome again to the Bear Body Talk series. I'm Elizabeth, your facilitator, and today we are talking with Bri. And Bri is an entrepreneur for all things women, and I love that that is your title that you're embracing right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Hi, welcome.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. Tell me more. Tell me more about all things women. What that means to you.
Well, up until like just 4 months ago, I had just consistently defined myself as being a fashion designer.
Mm.
And I'm a fashion designer for women and for femininity and for women embracing what it means to be a woman. And it kind of hit me in May that, like, wow, like that's kind of my umbrella, like helping women be women. And so then, in addition to fashion designing, I've started blogging on the Huffington Post and I launched a book and I'm starting a movement and all these things. So I'm like, I can't just call myself a fashion designer anymore because that's like kind of outdated. Like I'm doing so much more now that I have to have something that kind of encompasses all of it. So
Mhm.
came up with my new title.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I love the idea of an umbrella. It's like an all-inclusive feeling to what you do. That's awesome.
Yeah. I had a lot of people because, fashion is seen as being so superficial. And so,
Mm.
like, it's just the clothes we put on our body and, the media we see and the advertising and stuff. And I've had so many people be like, why fashion? Like, you're
Mhm.
not superficial, you're not shallow, you're not any of these things that the fashion industry represents. Like, why are you doing fashion?
Mm.
And so when I started branching out, I had a lot of people come to me and say, we always knew you were like so much more than just a fashion designer.
Interesting.
So then that's kind of when I started realizing that fashion is just like a small fraction of all the different things that are going to kind of be put together to, you know, change the world for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And you say changing the world, and it's a big phrase and it's a very simple phrase. So what is it that you want the change? What's the change that you want to be?
I really, so when I did 100 interviews with 100 women for the Inspirational Woman Project. Yeah. And they're still going. I'm still doing blog posts and stuff. The 100 are in the book, and then there's more than that that are being released online. But the thing that I kind of realized is that women don't really identify with being inspirational, and they don't
Mm.
really like look at themselves in the mirror and be like, I can impact the world, even though we all do,
Yeah.
all of us, every single day. And so kind of what I want to help facilitate that mindset shift of like,
Mm.
every woman is inspirational, even if it's just in the smallest way. Like one of my interviewees finally said, like she and I had a whole conversation about this. And so she finally came up with her answer for how do you inspire the world around you. She said, she originally didn't feel inspirational and was really intimidated to be in the book.
Mhm.
And then she kind of had this shift where she was like, well, I don't have to be Mother Teresa. I don't have to be Princess
Yeah.
Diana. I don't have to be, the Dalai Lama or whatever. Like I can change the world. I can impact lives. I can make a difference just by being me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's a beautiful shift. That's a beautiful shift.
it was good. And I mean, well, I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but I've had some similar shifts like through this bear experience and all that stuff. So
Yeah. Thank you for the segue. Um, that's my next question. Yeah. What was your bear experience like? Just to provide context, we've got interviews lined up in the series from women who were in a group of other women bearing their bodies for the camera. Your experience is slightly different, so tell me more about it.
Yeah, so my experience was a little bit more intimate. With Michelle being on the East Coast right now, I kind of had to find a photographer on my own and coordinate the whole thing on my own. Sorry, there's someone else in the house that's being a little noisy.
That's okay.
So I found a photographer and chose a photographer that kind of lives in the middle of nowhere, LA, and went up to her place in the canyon and just her and I, just the two of us and the birds. We did it outside and it was very, very quiet and intimate and yeah,
Mm. I
yeah,
like that. I like that you took charge to make your experience happen.
yeah. It was. I mean, I don't know if I really had a choice. That's that's how it was going to come together. So,
Mm,
so yeah.
awesome. What was the impact of that for you? Like after it had happened, what was the impact that it created in you?
Honestly, more of my shifts happened before the actual photo shoot.
Okay.
And since then, I've just kind of been making a point to reinforce those things every day.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that I came across, I've had done these 100 interviews with these 100 women, putting together this, inspirational woman project, all this stuff. And I woke up one day and I was just kind of having an off day. And a friend of mine text messaged me and said, "Remember, you're a champion." And
Mm,
I looked at the text message and I was like, I don't believe that about myself.
mm,
And so here I am starting an inspirational woman project movement. And I don't look in the mirror and see myself as inspirational.
mm.
And I was like, oh shit, I can't admit this. I can't tell anyone that. They'll think I'm
Right.
a fraud and a phony and they won't want to buy the book because I'm like
Yeah.
full of it.
Yeah.
And so I just had this, I had 2 days where I was just like in the fetal position crying and, meditating and just kind of going through it.
Mm,
And, I have all these cheerleaders in my life that have believed that about me for years. I mean, ever since I was a little girl, I had people telling me that I was going to do great things in the world.
mm.
And they believe in me like really for no reason other than that they believe in me.
Yeah.
And but if I don't believe in myself, I'm never going to be able to do the things I want to do in the world. And so it's really been claiming my place as an inspirational woman, just like I want all these other women to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about the bear experience for you that was like um, the claiming, but also instead of it being an experience that uncovered something for you, it was like it was the finding of it. Like I found this, and here is me embodying what I am setting out to be and do in the world.
And it's an active embodying. I mean, it's
Mm.
not just, me saying one day like, okay, now I'm going to be inspirational.
Right. Right.
It's every day, like anytime anyone says anything to me, I got another text message last night from someone that was like, dare I say it, you're an inspirational woman. And it's like really receiving that too.
Mm.
And not just brushing it off and saying, oh, thanks.
Hmm.
It's like taking that moment to really truly receive it and believe it.
Yeah.
And looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself I'm an inspiration every day and just stopping to see how I'm impacting the lives of others. And so it's definitely active. It's not something that's just there yet. But
Right.
what do they say? It's 21 days of doing something every single day.
Creates a habit. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's true. I love that you're taking on and bringing up the topic of the active embodiment, the active pursuit of creating the change we want to see and be in the world. Um, I'm curious if part of your journey has been around the embodiment of things, or like I'm curious if in your past or in your history there's moments when you wish you could have had more of that. What's gotten you to this point?
It's really been just like a continual, like little evolution of things here and there.
Yeah.
I had kind of a rough childhood growing up, and my grandparents disowned me at the age of like 12 or 13. And just, I had a lot of things where I just, adopted this, like, I'm not worthy
Mm.
mentality. Not worthy of their love and affection or their time and accepting me. I dressed very crazy when I was growing up because, obviously now I'm a fashion designer and I get to say, well, that's fashionable. That's a trend. But back
Right.
then, I just
Mm.
dressed how I wanted to and got a lot of flack from it. And so that was another thing that kind of, put in that, like, I'm not worthy. And so it's all these things leading up to the point where then I'm saying, I am worthy and here's how I'm having to kind of unravel and undo all the stuff that I've believed about myself in the past.
Yeah. 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 I'm a little struck by the fact that your grandparents disowned you. What were some of those relationships like?
It
Grandparents are
was
important people,
right.
and
Right. I was
yeah.
very, very, very blessed. My mom's
Mm.
grandparents are the most supportive, loving. I mean, they still to this day, a few weeks ago, sent me a card that said, "Remember, you are always, 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 always loved," or something like that.
Mm.
So they've been really supportive. That's the grandma that taught me how to sew when I was growing up, and they helped raise me and stuff.
Awesome.
My other grandparents, looking back on it now, they weren't necessarily equipped with the tools to do that.
Mm.
They weren't taught, you know, how to love or how to be inclusive, how to care for someone on that level. And it reflected a lot in my dad's upbringing and even in his, manifestations as an adult and all that stuff.
Mm.
So it was just who they were and where they were at in their lives. And they just weren't ever given the tools to be accepting and be
Yeah.
loving.
Yeah.
It was a situation where I actually changed my name when I was like 12 or 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From their last name to my mom's maiden name.
Mm.
And it was just, they just weren't okay with it. And, it was their choice. And
Yeah.
I also fully believe too, like I needed all those experiences kind of leading up to where I'm at today in order to be who I am and where I'm at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's again, the active embodiment, like the act of not just saying that that's part of your journey, but actually embracing the forgiveness that you must have for the grandparents that disowned you, and embracing the culture of this new name and your mother's heritage, that lineage that you're taking on by doing so. Yeah.
And, I mean, it's still like I can sit here today and say I still have not fully forgiven them.
Mm.
In fact, my grandma emailed me, I guess it was about a year ago or something, and she wants a relationship with me again. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's been 20 years. Like, why now? And
Yeah.
I'm not ready to forgive you yet.
Yeah.
I emailed that to her, and it was hard, but at the same time, that's just, it's where I'm at right now. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, forgiveness is always a tricky emotion. And I'm curious also, like, because there's so much about embodiment and emotions moving around inside our body. I'm a big believer in, you know, um, emotions aren't just thoughts that we have in our head, right? Thoughts are in our head. Emotions are all over our body. They're in our gut. They're in our heart, in our fingertips, like when we feel excited about something. So what's that emotional journey for you felt like? And how do you say you meditate sometimes, and, so even just crying in the fetal position can be part of the healing process. So tell me a little bit more about that emotional journey that you've been through, or that you're on currently, whichever one you like to talk about.
Well, it's always kind of a continual evolution.
Sure.
You think like, oh, I'm here and look at me, I've conquered this or mastered that or da 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 da. And then a few weeks later, like another little piece of it comes up and you're like, man, I thought I was over that.
Shucks.
I know. I got hit with one yesterday. I started crying and I was like, damn it. I thought that I'd taken care of all this already. So, it is a continual journey. I mean, for me, it's just been being okay with it and allowing it. I mean, because for so long, you grow up and I was one when I was little, I would cry all the time and my mom would be like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I'd be like, I don't know, nothing.
Yeah.
But like, why do we say when we're crying, why do we automatically assume it's wrong? Or that, I mean,
yeah.
For me now it's, if I start crying, I cry a lot when I drive, which is I don't really understand why that brings that up for me. But when I'm in the car, I'll find myself crying, and just kind of like learning to allow it has been one thing. Because, the more you stuff it, the more you hold on to stuff, the more you, bury those emotions or don't deal with them or don't take care of them when they come up, the more they reemerge later, bigger. And so for me, it's just been honoring where I'm at in that moment. And if I need to tear up or if I need to cry, just doing it. But that's been, as I said, a continual journey and evolution. Even yesterday, I start crying. I'm out for a drink with a friend. I start crying and I'm like, oh God, I have to stop. I'm in public,
Yeah.
So it's a process, and just
Yeah.
learning the tools that are best for you to help move through it. So for me, meditation helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a very personal, whatever works for whoever it is.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think things like meditation and yoga, those are, I would say, in the self-awareness community, sort of the standards nowadays for getting back to the present, becoming aware of what's going on in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because you're not in your brain. Rocket science, it is not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I love that you acknowledge that it's a process, because it's whatever you resist persists. It's and there was a full moon last week, and there's a lot of other stuff going on in the universe, and um, it's sometimes difficult to understand why something is happening, but it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just cry in my car right now.
Yep.
It's cool.
And the new moon is coming up. I think it's on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm scheduled to go meditate with a group on Sunday for the new moon. So
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah, I try and keep on that at least every 2 weeks schedule, new moon, full moon, but
Nice.
as much as I can in between there as well, just
Right.
depending on what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
So the past 2 weeks have been fashion week, and I'm actually going to, I think, 4 fashion events this week.
Cool.
So I'm like, no time for meditating.
There's a balance to it. And no, but balance doesn't have to mean you have it all at the same time. Sometimes it comes in waves. Okay, I'm going to fill up on reflection and meditation right now, and become aware of what's going on. And then I'm going to go put my work out in the world and get my busy hat on.
Yes.
Go be that woman. We wear many different hats.
Yes.
I'm also really curious, because you work in the fashion industry, and Women Enough has a very specific message about women in the media, body image, and the culture of that. What's been your perception, having worked in fashion, and where do you stand on all of it?
So the kind of nice thing for me is that I've never technically worked in fashion. I've always had my own label.
Right.
So I am very much have been able to make my own rules. And, I have a little sister who's 21, and, I see what I go through when I look at, luckily for me, when I look at magazines, I look at them through a completely different filter than most people. I'm not looking at the models, I look at them from a business perspective, but I recognize that that's not the truth for everyone. And so for me, the hard thing is I actually just had someone unfriend me on Facebook because I used thin models in a runway show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the really hard thing is I usually don't know who my models are until maybe 24 hours before a show.
Yeah.
And even then I don't get to pick them. So when you make samples for runway shows and things like that, you make them to a certain size.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try and usually make my samples to a 26-inch waist, just because that's it's probably the biggest any runway model is going to be. And unfortunately, that's the industry right now.
Yikes.
I did have a model in Phoenix whose waist was 22 inches.
Whoa.
Yeah. I looked at her comp card and I was like, how am I going to dress that?
Whoa.
I don't even know if I have anything to fit her. But, you have to make samples that are going to fit the models. And when you're participating in a show and someone else is giving you models, you have to go with what you have. But for the most part, I'm very particular about making sure that my models are healthy. When I do lookbook shoots, I get to personally choose my models. And yeah, while they might still be thin, they're healthy. I feed them on set. I make sure that they've eaten. I bring, vegetables and hummus and apples and all sorts of stuff to make sure that we're all staying healthy on set, bringing water and all that. And I just the other hard thing too. So my sister's 21, like I said, she's tiny. She's a twig, but that girl can put down more food than I can.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to look at these models and say, well, they're thin and you're propagating anorexia. It's my sister actually gets really angry. This is how I was made.
Yeah.
I can't help that this is my body. she's healthy. She exercises. She, eats like a horse. She,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's just how she's built. And so I try to do the same when I'm working with models. I try and make sure, that they have like, they're either, muscular. And so you can tell that they're like in charge of their body and like really with it, or
Mm-hmm.
that they're, at least healthy enough so that they have like a good arm, that they're
Mm-hmm.
not like complete sticks and waifs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I try and be really purposeful about it. And I'm lucky, like I said, that I, for the most part, get to choose who I work with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the industry is broken.
Yeah.
Has been for a really long time. But the hard thing is there's so many people holding on to that broken industry that like as one person, it's really hard to affect change in it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my best. I really am. I really am. But, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And
I mean, it's a really big monster of an industry. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars here. And one person can have an idea and can speak words and be impeccable with that word and do their best. And thank you for being part of that inside this industry. And I totally hear you. I mean, I think there's a bit of like not a big trend, but like an undercurrent trend of kickback against thin.
yes.
And there's it's like a sub-trend. And it's interesting that you brought this up, because I think some people might really disagree with you and some people might really agree with you. But all those opinions aside, sometimes, I mean, thin has been in for a really long time. And I think that's what sometimes causes that lack of diversity of body image, causes young women and girls to think that they're irregular or not right if they don't look exactly like that. So, yeah, but thin can be healthy too. There's this, I'm interested to hear more about, that the imagery that you use, that you want to work with, that you sometimes have to work with, but that there's, I don't quite know what I'm trying to say, but I'm intrigued by this, because I think it's an important fact. It's an important statement to make, that it doesn't matter the way you look. Are you healthy?
Yes.
Are you claiming your body?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's really, I had a runway show on Thursday and the models were all, model sized. But the girl that went second in my show, she was on America's Next Top Model, she's a 6-pack or an 8-pack, and like her shoulders and arms, I was like, oh my God, like I will never, ever, and I'm okay with that. Like, I mean, it would be cool to have. Her shoulders were unbelievable. I was so blown away.
Wow.
But like, that's her body. She does a lot more like sportswear modeling and stuff too. So, I don't know. I work really hard to try and make connections with models that are genuine and real and healthy. And, sometimes you can't always tell. There's a model I worked with 2 years ago that's currently in recovery for anorexia.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But, I just do my best to tell them that they're beautiful and dress them and love them and accept them and feed them. That's
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Yeah. No, I love that we're talking about this, because I think it's so easy for somebody who's not working directly with photographers or directly with models or directly with fashion editors or whoever's there doing the quote unquote photoshopping in magazines.
That's another thing. I do not allow my images to be photoshopped. Like that's, periodically, I mean, you have to do a little bit of color correction or, evening out some skin tones and stuff here and there. But I am so adamant. If I have control over the photo shoot, sometimes I have a showroom. So people go and they pull all my clothes and they do their photo shoot. And I don't even know about it until I see the images.
Yeah.
I have nothing to do with it, but they use my clothes. And I'm not going to tell people, no, you can't use my clothes. Like it's free advertising basically.
Yeah.
But if I have control over the photo shoot and it's my images and my photographer and my branding and, you know, all that stuff, the girls do not get photoshopped.
Yeah.
Other than, you know, like I said, slight color corrections and stuff like that. But
yeah. Yeah.
You know, and there's some of us that are standing tall and doing it the right way and trying. I mean, I've heard horror stories of 14-year-olds backstage at fashion weeks, like snorting coke. And like,
Whoa.
you know, I will stand here today telling you that if there's a 14-year-old on my runway, I hope to God her mom's there. And B, there will never be any drugs done at any of my shows unless for whatever reason, I don't know about it. But I'm very purposeful about having like very heartfelt and very, you know, genuine centered fashion events and things, because I just, it's important to me. And it's really easy for people to stand on their soapboxes, like you said, that aren't in the industry and say, well, it should be like this.
Yeah.
I would like to invite any of those people to come stand in my shoes for a day.
That's a really fair statement.
Because it is not as easy as saying, you know, oh, well, it should be that way. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
It's undoing years and years and years and years of conditioning and habits and industry. And it just,
it takes time.
It does.
It's a process.
It is a process, but you know, there are those of us that are passionate about it, and some of us are starting to band together, and it will happen, maybe not in our lifetimes, but if I can affect change, you know, in the smallest bit uphill, then great.
Love it.
So
love it. I feel like I just got like an insider's look into the fashion industry. I'm like, ooh. And I could go on and on asking you really fun questions and being curious about all of that. But we'll save that for another interview.
Yes.
Cool. So it sounds like, it also sounds like, and maybe we'll sort of end with this aspect of things. It sounds like, from what you've been talking about, that legacy is maybe not a word that you have used or do use, but that legacy plays an important role in the choices you make, in the projects that you pursue, and the messaging that you want to get out there, regardless of what the project is. So maybe just you have the floor, be as passionate about what's the legacy that you want to leave, and that you want others to commit to leaving on this earth.
I mean, I've seen this trend of women and girls just kind of stuffing their intuition and kind of like disconnecting from who they really are and all this stuff. I mean, you see it everywhere all the time. And, you know, I especially being in the fashion industry, I watch some of the things that people wear, and I have this feeling that I'm like, there's no way that you can respect yourself if that's what you're choosing to put on your body. And so the legacy that I really want to leave is really helping women connect with what it means to them to be a woman, and then not compromising that in any way, shape, or form, and showing up on the outside then with that integrity. And, you know, as we've talked about, the culture and the society that is around us right now is not about that. It's about, you know, the celebrities and the thinness and all these kind of superficial things. And, you know, for me, fashion has never been superficial. It's a way to communicate your true self to the world. And so, you know, is wearing the little bodycon dresses and the short shorts and the plunging tops and the, you know, like, is that really the message that you're trying to communicate to the world? And what is it getting you, and who is it telling people that you are, and how are you showing up? And so for me, I guess my legacy is to really help women be more authentic, be more purposeful, and be more inspiring.
Yeah.
To themselves and others. Like, you know, you can't inspire other people if you don't feel inspired yourself.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I guess I've known for a little while. I think I wrote in my journal not too long ago that I wanted to be in the history books, and not just for being like a fashion designer, you know, but for truly like affecting change in the world and helping women kind of, you know, rise up.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
I'll rise up with you. I'm inspired. I'm inspired by talking to you.
I should send you the questions for the, I should feature you on the blog.
Oh,
Because now that the book's done, I'm still doing, in fact, I had one go live today and I have another one going live on Wednesday, and I'm trying to get more people to give me content so I can keep with the interviews on the blog.
okie dokie.
So I'll email you.
Maybe, yeah, we can work something out there. I love it. You inspired me and then you pounced. I love it. I'm happy to be pounced upon. It's all good. No, honestly, thank you so much for your passion and really the impact, the responsibility that you take for the impact that you have. That's coming across in abundance while I'm talking to you today. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, I'll see you soon.
See you soon.